Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Blog Podcast. Today is Monday, February 11th, 2019. Did not do a podcast yesterday, so we're going to go a little longer than I normally would because I'll go over Saturday's results in both college basketball and the NBA as well as the NHL, and yesterday's. Look ahead to tonight's slate and all the sports. We have a couple big games in both college and NBA. And then I want to talk about the top 16 being unveiled on Saturday for the NCAA tournament, like if the season or if Saturday was Selection Sunday. And then I'm going to talk about the new football league, the AAF, and talk about those results and whatnot. And then I'll talk about Kyler Murray's decision to go for strictly football. And then I'll do my best bet of the day. All right, college basketball. We'll start with Saturday's results. And then we're going to do Sunday's results. And then we'll look ahead to tonight's slate. Number 7, Michigan defeats number 19, Wisconsin, 61-52. As Michigan improved to 22-2, Wisconsin 17-7. Charles Matthews led Michigan in scoring at 18, and Ethan Happ had 18 for Wisconsin. Ethan Happ has been fantastic this season. Number 8, North Carolina defeats Miami 88-85 in overtime. North Carolina avoids the dreaded trap as they host Virginia tonight. Maybe they were caught looking ahead a little bit. Carolina was due for a little bit of a stinker. They've been playing well, but they somehow survived with the win, courtesy of Kobe White and his 33 points. As UNC improves to 19-4, Miami dropped to 10-13, and Chris Likes of Miami had 27 in defeat. Clemson defeats number 11, Virginia Tech, 59-51. Clemson goes to 15-8. Virginia Tech drops to 18-5. Big win for Clemson. Shelton Mitchell had 22, and for Virginia Tech, Kerry Blackscar Jr. had 17. Number 13, Kansas defeats Oklahoma State 84-72. Big win for Kansas. They're 18-6. Oklahoma State is 9-14. Dedrick Lawson had 25 for KU, and Oklahoma State's Cameron McGriff had 22. Providence upsets St. John's 70-56. A big win for Providence. They're 14-10. St. John's drops to 17-7. Nate Watson had 18 to lead Providence, and for St. John's, Shamari Pons had 20 in defeat. Butler defeats Georgetown 73-69. Butler improves to 14-10. Georgetown drops to 15-9. Kamar Baldwin at 18 for Butler, and then for Georgetown, Mac McClung had 21. Bucknell defeats Boston University 82-76. Bucknell 16-8. BU 11-14. Tulsa defeats Temple 76-58. Big win for Tulsa. They're 14-10. Temple drops to 17-7. Bad loss for them. Sterling Taplin at 14 for Tulsa. And then for Temple, Shiz Alston Jr. at 13. Number 5, Kentucky defeats Mississippi State 71-67. The final score looks deceiving because Kentucky dominated most of that game. They're 20-3. And Mississippi State 16-7. P.J. Washington, 23 points. And Lamar Peters of Mississippi State at 16. UMass defeats Dayton 54-51. UMass 9-15, Dayton 17-6. Carl Pierre in the upset win had 23, and John Exel Gudmundson had 17 for Davidson. UIC defeats IUPUI 76-75. UIC 13-12, IUPUI 14-11. Samford defeats VMI 84-77 in overtime. Samford 15-11, VMI 7-17. And by the way, I'm doing the player points totals just for the major conferences and the semi-majors conferences games like the A-10, Mountain West, teams like that, AAC. Ole Miss defeats Georgia 80-64. Ole Miss 16-7, Georgia 10-13. Big news regarding Georgia I'll get to in a little while. Brian Tyree of Ole Miss had 31, and Jordan Harris of Georgia led them in scoring with 10. Binghamton defeats New Hampshire 68-61. Binghamton 7-18, New Hampshire 3-20. Monmouth defeats Fairfield 61-49. Monmouth 10-16, Fairfield 7-18. Number 9, Michigan State defeats Minnesota 79-55. Michigan State 19-5, Minnesota 16-8. Nick Ward had 22 for the Spartans, and for the Golden Gophers, Gabe Kalisher had 17. TCU defeats number 17 Iowa State 92-83. TCU 17-6, Iowa State 18-6. Big win for TCU. Kendrick Davis led them in scoring with 22. And Mario Shayok led Iowa State with 24. Number 21 LSU defeats Auburn 83-78. LSU 19-4, Auburn 16-7. Skylar Mays had 20 for LSU, and for Auburn, Jared Harper had 25. Eastern Michigan defeats Northern Illinois 57-49. Eastern Michigan 10-13, Northern Illinois 12-12. Charleston Southern defeats UNC Asheville 85-75. Charleston Southern 11-12. UNC Asheville 3-22. VCU defeats St. Bonaventure 85-55. VCU 17-6. St. Bonaventure 9-14. Sean Mobley had 12 for VCU, and for St. Bonaventure leading the game in scoring was Courtney Stockard with 15. Vermont defeats Albany 67-49. Vermont 19-5. Albany 8-16. Winthrop defeats Hampton 101-91. Winthrop 16-8. Hampton 10-13. Syracuse defeats Boston College 67-56. Syracuse 17-7. BC 11-11. As Tyus Battle at 21 for the Orange, and Kai Bowman had 21 for the Eagles. Boise State defeats San Jose State 105-57. Boise 11-13. San Jose State 3-19. Derek Olsen had 33 for Boise, and Michael Stedman had 16 for San Jose State. Wyoming defeats Colorado State 74-66. Wyoming 6-17. Colorado State 9-15. Justin James had 36 for Wyoming, and J.D. Page had 22 for Colorado State. American defeats Army 71-68. American 13-10. Army 11-14. Colgate defeats Loyola Maryland 75-72. Colgate 15-10. Loyola Maryland 8-17. Miami of Ohio defeats Ohio 79-59. Miami of Ohio 13-11. Ohio 11-11. Ball State defeats Western Michigan 79-59. Ball State 13-11. Western Michigan 6-17. NC State defeats Pitt 79-76. NC State 17-7. Pitt 12-12. CJ Bryce had 21 for NC State, and Xavier Johnson for Pitt had 17. Duquesne defeats Fordham 74-66. Duquesne 16-8. Fordham 10-13. Marcus Weathers had 16 for Duquesne, and Nick Honor of Fordham had 18. Number 10, Marquette defeats number 14, Villanova 66-65. Great game in Marquette, or for Marquette, I should say. 20-4 in the year. Villanova's 19-5. So Villanova's leading the Big East is now down to one game. Phil Booth had 19 to lead Villanova in scoring, but Marcus Howard was the story of this game. He had 38 points for Marquette, and probably the Big East Player of the Year frontrunner right now. Mount St. Mary's defeats Sacred Heart 76-73. Mount St. Mary's 6-19. Sacred Heart 11-14. They cost me my best bet from Saturday. Sacred Heart. Troy defeats Arkansas State 84-79. Troy 11-12. Arkansas State 10-14. Texas Arlington defeats Appalachian State 78-68. UT Arlington 12-12. Appalachian State 8-16. Cleveland State defeats Milwaukee 78-68. Cleveland State 7-19. Milwaukee 9-16. Number 23 Buffalo defeats Central Michigan 90-76. Buffalo 20-3. Central Michigan 16-7. South Carolina defeats Arkansas 77-65. South Carolina 12-11. Arkansas 14-9. A.J. Lawson had 24 for South Carolina, and Jalen Harris had 17 for Arkansas. Number 1 Tennessee defeats Florida 73-61. Tennessee 22-1. Florida 12-11. Grant Williams had 16 for the Vols, and Noah Locke had 17 for the Gators. Number 22 Florida State defeats number 16 Louisville 80-75 in overtime. Florida State 18-5. Louisville 17-7. Mfiondu Kabengele had 22 for Florida State, and Christian Cunningham had 20 for Louisville. Number 18, Texas Tech defeats Oklahoma 66-54. Texas Tech 19-5. Oklahoma 15-9. Davide Moretti had 14 for the Red Raiders, and Rashard Odomez had 14 for the Sooners. Central Connecticut State defeats Robert Morris 77-68. Central Connecticut State 11-14. Robert Morris 13-12. Charleston defeats Drexel 86-84. Charleston 20-6. Drexel 12-14. Northeastern defeats Alon 72-60 in overtime. Northeastern 15-9. Alon 8-18. By the way, Northeastern outscored Alon 12-0 in the overtime. The Citadel defeats Mercer 67-61. Citadel 11-12. Mercer 8-16. North Carolina A&T defeats Delaware State 82-52. NCAT 12-11. Delaware State 4-19. Howard defeats Florida A&M 70-66. Howard 11-13. Florida A&M 10-15. Illinois defeats Rutgers 99-94 in overtime. Illinois 9-15. Rutgers 11-12. Georgi Beshamvili had 35 for Illinois, and Kayla McConnell of Rutgers had 25. Fairleigh Dickinson defeated St. Francis Brooklyn 84-73. Fairleigh Dickinson 12-12. St. Francis Brooklyn 14-11. Dayton defeats Rhode Island 77-48. Dayton 16-8. Rhode Island 12-11. Nice win for Dayton. Jalen Crutcher had 20 for the Flyers, and for the Rams, Cyril Levine had 23. High Point defeat Radford 69-66 in overtime. Radford 18-7. High Point 13-11. South Carolina State defeats Morgan State 85-81. South Carolina State 5-20. Morgan State 8-15. Furman defeats East Tennessee State 91-61. Furman 20-5. East Tennessee State 19-7. Northwestern State defeats McNeese 74-72. Northwestern State 9-15. McNeese 7-16. Montana State defeats Idaho 86-72. Montana State 11-12. Idaho 4-19. Little Rock defeats South Alabama 73-68. Arkansas Little Rock 9-15. South Alabama 12-12. UTSA defeats FAU 86-74. UTSA 15-10. Florida Atlantic 14-11. Bethune-Cookman defeats Norfolk State 84-76. Bethune-Cookman 11-13. Norfolk 13-11. Hofstra defeats William & Mary 93-87. Hofstra 21-4. William & Mary 9-16. Pepperdine defeats San Diego 70-67. Pepperdine 12-13. San Diego 16-9. NC Central defeats UMass 78-53. NC Central 11-13. UMass 4-22. Southern Utah defeats Idaho State 78-72. Southern Utah 12-10. Idaho State 9-13. Northern Arizona loses to Weber State by a score of 86-71. Weber State improves to 15-9. Northern Arizona 9-16. Towson defeats James Madison 66-59. Towson 9-16. James Madison 10-15. Kennesaw State defeats NJIT 63-62. Kennesaw State 5-20. NJIT 18-7. Tennessee Martin defeats Tennessee Tech 77-58. Tennessee Martin 8-15. Tennessee Tech 7-18. Lehigh defeats Navy 83-57. Lehigh 16-7. Navy 8-15. North Florida defeats Northern Alabama 82-73. North Florida 10-16. North Alabama 8-18. Wagner defeats LIU Brooklyn 68-65. Wagner 11-12. LIU Brooklyn 11-13. Campbell defeats South Carolina Upstate 82-66. Campbell 14-10. South Carolina Upstate 6-20. Presbyterian defeats Gardner Webb 103-101. Presbyterian 15-11. Weber 15-10. Northern Colorado defeats Sacramento State 65-59. Northern Colorado 16-8. Sacramento is 9-11. Belmont defeats Morehead State 96-86. Belmont 19-4. Morehead 9-16. Lipscomb defeats Jacksonville 86-77. Lipscomb 20-4. Jacksonville 11-15. Southern Miss defeats Louisiana Tech 73-71 in overtime. Southern Miss 15-9. Louisiana Tech 15-10. Southeast Louisiana defeats Central Arkansas 75-67. Southeast Louisiana 11-13. Central Arkansas 10-14. Texas State defeats Coastal Carolina 65-57. Texas State 19-5. Coastal Carolina 12-11. Fresno State defeats UNLV 83-65. Fresno 17-6. UNLV 12-11. Braxton Huggins of Fresno had 31, and Chris Clyburn of UNLV had 15. Austin Peay defeats Eastern Illinois 94-86. Austin Peay 18-7. Eastern Illinois 13-12. North Dakota State defeats Denver 81-71. North Dakota State 13-12. Denver 7-18. Utah defeats UCLA 93-92 on a buzzer-beating 3 by Parker Van Dyke to complete a 22 comeback, improving Utah to 13-10, and UCLA drops to 12-12. As Timmy Allen actually led Utah in scoring with 22, and Jalen Hands led UCLA in scoring with 27. South Dakota State defeats North Dakota 80-55. South Dakota State 20-6. North Dakota 9-16. Nichols defeats New Orleans 64-63. Nichols 11-12. New Orleans 13-10. Jacksonville State defeats Southeast Missouri State 81-64. Jacksonville State 17-8. Southeast Missouri 8-17. Lamar defeats Stephen F. Austin 82-67. Lamar 12-12. Stephen F. Austin 12-10. Oregon State defeats Cal 79-71. Oregon State 15-8, Cal 5-18. Stephen Thompson Jr. for Oregon State at 21, and Justice Suang of Cal at 16. Number 2, Duke defeats number 3, Virginia 81-71. Duke 21-2, Virginia 20-2. R.J. Barrett had 26 points, including 6 3-pointers, and Zion Williamson had 18 for Duke as well, and Ty Jerome of Virginia had 16. Number 6, Nevada defeats New Mexico 91-62. Nevada 23-1. New Mexico 10-13. Trey Porter led Nevada in scoring with 20, and Mukash Malach of New Mexico had 19. So good job on Nevada for avenging their lone loss this season. Arkansas Pine Bluff defeats Alabama State 75-69. Pine Bluff 8-15. Alabama State 8-13. Drake defeats Northern Iowa 83-77. Drake 18-7. Northern Iowa 10-15. Toledo defeats Bowling Green 78-71. Toledo 20-4. Bowling Green 16-7. Richmond defeats George Washington 89-63. Richmond 10-14. George Washington 7-16. And for Richmond, leading them in scoring was Grant Golden, who had 17, and Maceo Jack had 24 for George Washington. Brown defeats Princeton 78-70. Brown's been overachieving this year. They're 14-8. Princeton is 12-7. Texas A&M upsets Missouri 68-59 as the Aggies go to 9-13. Missouri drops to 11-11. Wendell Mitchell had 20 for the Aggies, and Javon Pickett had 15 for Missouri. Savannah State defeats Coppin State 71-62. Savannah State 8-15. Coppin 5-20. Youngstown State defeats Green Bay 96-77. Youngstown 10-16. Green Bay 12-13. Kansas State defeats Baylor 70-63. A good win for Kansas State. They're 18-5. Baylor is 15-8. Kamau Stokes had 20 for the Wildcats, and Devontae Bando had 15 for Baylor. Western Kentucky defeats North Texas 62-59. Western Kentucky 15-10. North Texas 20-5. Grambling defeats Southern 59-40. Grambling 12-11. Southern 3-20. Alcorn State defeats Jackson State 66-52. Jackson State drops to 9-14. Alcorn goes to 8-14. Wofford defeats Western Carolina 83-56. Wofford, they're sensational. They're 21-4. Western Carolina is 6-20. Yale defeats Penn 78-65. Good win for Yale. They're 15-4. Penn drops to 14-8. Eastern Kentucky defeats Tennessee State 75-65. Eastern Kentucky is 11-14. Tennessee State is 8-16. Wright State defeats Detroit Mercy 83-60. Wright State 15-11. Detroit 9-16. Dartmouth defeats Columbia 82-66. Dartmouth 11-11. Columbia 6-14. Liberty defeats Florida Gulf Coast 74-67. Liberty 21-5. Florida Gulf Coast 10-15. Old Dominion defeats Middle Tennessee 55-50. Old Dominion 20-6. Middle Tennessee 8-17. UNC Greensboro defeats Chattanooga 78-63. Greensboro 22-3. Chattanooga 11-5. Northern Kentucky defeats Oakland 79-64. Northern Kentucky 20-6. Oakland 11-16. St. Francis, Pennsylvania defeats Bryant 84-75. St. Francis goes to 12-11. Bryant drops to 8-15. Stony Brook defeats UMass Lowell 76-65. Stony Brook 20-5. Lowell 13-12. Delaware defeats UNC Wilmington 70-66. Delaware 15-11. UNC Wilmington 8-18. Cornell defeats Harvard 67-61. Cornell 12-10. Harvard 11-8. Sam Houston State defeats Abilene Christian 90-85 in double overtime. Sam Houston State 16-8. Abilene Christian 19-5. Alabama A&M defeats Mississippi Valley State 78-63. Bama A&M's 5-19. Mississippi Valley State is 3-21. Washington State defeats Arizona 69-55. Washington State 10-14. Arizona 14-10. Robert Franks had 31 for Washington State, and Justin Coleman had 14 for Arizona. So Washington State with back-to-back upset wins over the Arizona schools. Cal State Fullerton defeats UC Riverside 77-54. Fullerton 10-13. Riverside 8-17. DePaul defeats Xavier 74-62. DePaul 13-9. Xavier 11-3. Max Struss of DePaul led them in scoring with 17, and Najee Marshall of Xavier led them in scoring with 22. Texas defeats West Virginia 75-53. Good win for Texas, considering that West Virginia's been pulling off some trap upsets lately with one over Kansas, and I believe they picked off somebody else out of Oklahoma. So it wouldn't have been shocking to see them pick off Texas, but Texas blows them out at the Coliseum as they go to 14-10. West Virginia drops to 10-14. Courtney Ramey led the Longhorns in scoring with 19. Anissa Ahmad of West Virginia led them in scoring with 14. Bradley defeats Indiana State 96-67. Bradley 13-12. Indiana State 12-12. Wichita State defeats Tulane 77-62. Wichita 12-11. Tulane 4-18. Marcus McDuffie of Wichita had 25, and Caleb Daniels of Tulane had 17. Southern Illinois defeats Evansville 78-73. Southern Illinois 13-12. Evansville 10-15. Rice defeats Marshall 74-69. Rice 10-15. Marshall 13-12. Charlotte defeats UAB 69-62. Charlotte 6-18. UAB 14-11. Seton Hall defeats Creighton 63-58. Seton Hall 14-9. Creighton 13-11. Miles Powell had 22 for Seton Hall, and Martin Krempegi had 25 for Creighton, so that was a big win for Seton Hall. A&M Corpus Christi defeats Incarnate Word 70-61. Corpus Christi is 10-13. Incarnate Word 6-17. Murray State defeats SIU Edwardsville 86-55. Murray is 19-4. Edwardsville is 8-16. Number 15, Purdue defeats Nebraska 81-62. Purdue's been rolling of late. They're probably the fourth best team in the Big Ten. They are 17-6. Nebraska's 13-11. Carson Edwards had 27 points for the Boilermakers, and Thomas Allen had 18 for the Cornhuskers, whose season has gone south in a hurry. Alabama defeats Vanderbilt 77-67 as Bama goes to 15-8. Vanderbilt 9-14. Kira Lewis Jr. had 18 for Bama, and Saban Lee of Vanderbilt had 24. Texas Southern defeats Prairie View 95-90. Texas Southern 12-11. Prairie View 11-12. UTEP defeats FIU 85-75. UTEP 8-15, FIU 14-11. New Mexico State defeats Grand Canyon 67-64. New Mexico State 20-4. Grand Canyon 14-9. BYU defeats Pacific 69-59. BYU 16-10. Pacific 13-13. ULE Childs had 19 for BYU, and Roberto Gallant had 15 for Pacific. Eastern Washington loses by 1 point at Montana, 75-74. Montana goes to 17-6. Eastern Washington 8-15. Number 4 Gonzaga kills St. Mary's 94-46. Impressive win for the Bulldogs. They're 23-2. St. Mary's 15-10. Brandon Clark led the Bulldogs in scoring with 24, and Tommy Cucci of St. Mary's led them in scoring with 12. San Diego State defeats Utah State 68-63. San Diego State 14-9. Utah State 18-6. Devin Watson at 23 for the Aztecs, and for the Aggies, Sam Morrell led them in scoring with 35. Colorado upsets USC 69-65. Colorado 14-9, USC 13-11. McKinley Wright the fourth led the Buffaloes in scoring with 20, and Benny Boatwright led USC with 24. Long Beach State defeats Cal Poly 76-68 in overtime. Long Beach State 9-16. Cal Poly 5-17. Cal Baptist defeats UMKC 70-60. Cal Baptist 13-10. UMKC 8-16. UC Irvine defeats Hawaii 67-56. Irvine 21-5. Hawaii 14-9. Texas Rio Grande defeats Cal State Bakersfield 79-74 in overtime. Texas Rio Grande 14-12. Bakersfield 15-9. Loyola Marymount defeats Portland 72-55. Marymount 17-8. Portland 7-19. James Bateman of Marymount had 28. Lead them in scoring, and Portland scoring leader was Marcus Sharver Jr. with 19. Arizona State defeats Washington 75-63. Arizona State improves to 16-7. Washington drops to 19-5. Big win for Bobby Hurley's team, as I predicted on this podcast. Romello White led them in scoring with 17, and Noah Dickerson led Washington with scoring of 18. But the highlight of this game was ESPN's Bill Walton eating a lit cupcake. He ate the fire. He had Dave Pash, the play-by-play announcer, falling off his chair. That was the highlight of that game, and those two are the best duo in college basketball. Them with their Pac-12 coverage is just fun, and those two guys are close. And Bill Walton does all the crazy things in the world, including eating a lit cupcake on the air. San Francisco defeats Santa Clara 78-72. San Francisco 18-6. Santa Clara 13-12. Jimbo Lule led San Francisco in scoring with 16, and Josef Vrankic led Santa Clara in scoring with 24. And UC Davis defeats Santa Barbara 61-57. UC Davis with the upset win. They're 8-14. Santa Barbara drops to 17-6. Sunday's results. Wasn't that many games compared to Saturday. Lafayette defeats Holy Cross 69-67. Lafayette improves to 7-16. Holy Cross drops to 13-12. Iona defeats Niagara 79-76. Iona 8-15. Niagara 11-14. Ohio State defeats Indiana 55-52. My pick for this game would have been Ohio State as an outright upset. Indiana was favored by 2.5. Ohio State improves to 16-7. Indiana drops to 13-11. Andre Weston of Ohio State had 15. Romeo Langford of Indiana had 15. UMBC defeats Maine 67-66. UMBC 15-10. Maine 5-20. Canisius defeats St. Peter's 64-60. Canisius 11-13. St. Peter's 6-17. George Mason defeats LaSalle 84-76. George Mason goes to 14-10. LaSalle drops to 7-15. Javon Green had 21 for Mason, and Pookie Powell had 18 for LaSalle. George Mason was favored in this game by 7. I would have picked them to win and cover, and they covered by only 1 point. Oral Roberts defeats South Dakota 86-72. Oral Roberts 10-17. South Dakota 9-15. Memphis defeats UConn 78-71. Memphis 14-10. Connecticut 13-11. Kyvon Davenport at 26 for the Tigers, and for the Huskies, Tyler Pulley led them in scoring with 20. Jalen Adams is out, by the way, for a couple of weeks. That's a huge blow for UConn. They need him back for the Big East tournament. I'm sorry, Big East. I'm living in, 2011? By saying Big East? I'm sorry, the AAC tournament. If they want to go on a surprise run, they need Jalen Adams back. My pick for this game would have been Memphis to win, but UConn to cover. Memphis in this game was favored by 7.5, so UConn indeed covered by a half point. Siena defeated Rider 59-57. Siena 13-12, Rider 12-12. UCF defeats SMU 71-65. UCF, good bounce back win. They're 17-5. SMU 12-11. Aubrey Dawkins had 26 for the Knights, and for the Mustangs, Jimmy Witt Jr. led them in scoring with 23. My pick for this game would have been SMU as an outright upset. Oh wait, no, SMU was a 2.5-point favorite. My bad. I thought UCF would have been favored in this game, so I would have picked SMU to win and cover. So that wouldn't have been an upset. My bad. Number 12, Houston defeated number 25, Cincinnati, 65-58. As Houston pulls away late, they are 23-1. Cincinnati 20-4. DeJon Jarreau had 16, including his late push in the second half. I believe he scored like 8 points in a row to close out the game. Jerron Cumberland had 27 for Cincinnati. My pick for this game would have been Houston to win, but Cincinnati to cover. I thought it'd be close. I assume the line of this game was Houston by 3, and it was Houston by 4.5. So I would have taken Houston to win and cover. Loyola Chicago defeats Valparaiso 56-51. Chicago 16-9. Valpo 13-12. Missouri State defeats Illinois State 66-65. The finish of the day yesterday, they're 13-12. Missouri State and Illinois State drops to 14-11. Jared Dixon banked in a half-court shot just before the final buzzer, and it was just unbelievable. It was a mad scramble for the ball, and Dixon picks it up and shoots the half-court shot, and that went in, and that was just an unbelievable finish. That was one of the best finishes of the year. A lot of crazy finishes within the past few days in sports. A lot of buzzer beaters. We saw that one, and then Iowa won at the buzzer last night. I'll get to that in a minute. Rondo against the Celtics the other day with the Lakers, and then you saw the kid on Utah at the buzzer beater to beat UCLA the other day too. South Florida defeats East Carolina 72-68 in overtime. South Florida continues to be the surprise of the AAC. They're 17-6. ECU's 9-14. David Collins had 21 for the Bulls. Isaac Fleming had 14 for the Pirates. Notre Dame defeats Georgia Tech 69-59. Notre Dame 13-11. Georgia Tech 11-13. TJ Gibbs had 20 for the Irish. Michael DeVoe had 18 for the Yellow Jackets. I would have taken Notre Dame to win and cover. They were favored by 5.5. And meanwhile, I would have taken South Florida to win and cover. Although I think East Carolina covered because I would assume South Florida was like a 5-point favorite. And they were favored by 12. Wow, I didn't think they were that big of a favorite. So East Carolina covered easily. Number 20, Iowa defeats Northwestern 80-79. Big comeback win for Iowa on a buzzer beater by Jordan Bohannon. It was actually with 0.3 of a second left on the shot clock. Iowa goes to 19-5. Northwestern drops to 12-11. Joe Weichkamp of Iowa had 21, and Vic Law of Northwestern had 24. I would have picked Iowa to win and cover that game easily, as they were favored by 10.5, but Northwestern covered. Oregon defeats Stanford 69-46. Oregon goes to 15-9. Stanford drops to 12-11. Peyton Pritchard had 20 for the Ducks, and Bryce Wills of Stanford had 13. I would have taken Oregon to win and cover easily, as they were favored by 6. Tonight's slate, 7 o'clock, ESPN, game of the night. Number 4, Virginia, and number 8, North Carolina. Carolina is favored by 1. They will win. They will cover. Their freshmen have been pretty good in Cody White and Nasir Little. Cam Johnson and Luke May have been good upperclassmen for that team. That's the core for that team. They're going to win. They're going to cover. I think it'll be a good game. I think Kobe White will be a big factor, hit some free throws down the stretch, and lead Carolina to another big win as they make a case for, dare I say, a 1 seed. On ESPNU, you have Norfolk State at Florida A&M. A&M's a 1-point favorite. I actually think that Florida A&M will win and cover, although I think Norfolk State's the better team. I just think home court will help Florida A&M like it did in their nationally televised game last Monday. Lehigh at Bucknell in the CBS Sports Network. Bucknell's favored by 4.5. I'm going to take Bucknell to win and cover. 7:30, Coppin State, South Carolina State, Morgan State at Savannah State, Maryland Eastern at NC A&T, Howard at Bethune-Cookman, Delaware State at NC Central, 8:30, Arkansas Pine Bluff at Alabama A&M, Mississippi Valley State at Alabama State, Grambling at Alcorn State, Jackson State at Southern, 9 o'clock ESPN, number 14 Kansas at TCU. TCU's favored by 2.5 at home. They will win and they will cover. Oklahoma at Baylor, 9 o'clock ESPN2. Baylor's favored by 4.5. I expect Baylor to bounce back and get the win. And at 10:30, you have Portland State at Sacramento State. Before we move on to the NBA, I want to talk about the top 16 that was revealed on Saturday. Number 1, Duke. Number 2, Tennessee. Number 3, Virginia. Number 4, Gonzaga. And your 2 seeds, Kentucky, Michigan, North Carolina, Michigan State. Your 3 seeds, Purdue, Kansas, Houston, Marquette. And your 4 seeds, Iowa State, Nevada, Louisville, and Wisconsin. I'm surprised Nevada made it on the list because I thought that the committee was going to damage them because of the New Mexico loss, which they did, but they punished them less than I thought they would. Good on Nevada. Houston made it on there, which I think I might have had them as a 4. I don't remember. I bumped Michigan State down to a 3 when I did mine on Friday. Good job by the committee by recognizing North Carolina. I think they got the top 4 right. I'm not so sure about the order. Right now, I'd have Duke, Tennessee, Gonzaga, Virginia in that order, and that's the same order that I would have had them on Friday. But if Virginia had won against Duke, it would have been a different order. So I don't mind the list. A big takeaway is that Villanova did not make it, which was a big surprise to me, how good they've been in Big East play. I guess the Furman loss cost them a seed line, and maybe even the Penn loss did as well. Wisconsin belongs on the list. Louisville, I think, should be a 3 because they've had some great wins. They have the win at Carolina. They have the home win against Michigan State. They have some opportunities coming up against Duke. Yeah, they lost to Florida State, but that was a road game, and Florida State needed that win more, so I give them a little bit of a pass on that game. And on Friday, I'll do another one of these mock brackets with possibly new teams in it because some teams took some bad losses. I'll probably remove some SEC teams that have took losses and shuffle some things around as well. Now we'll move on to the NBA. We'll go over Saturday night's results, and we'll go over Sunday's results as well and look ahead to tonight's games. The Jazz defeat the Spurs 125-105 as Utah improved to 32-24. San Antonio dropped to 32-26. Donovan Mitchell had 23 for the Jazz. Ricky Rubio had 16. Rudy Gobert had 21. And Joe Ingles and Derek Favors each had 11 off the bench. Royce O'Neal had 17. Meanwhile, for San Antonio, DeMar DeRozan had 23. Bryn Forbes had 12. LaMarcus Aldridge had 15. Davis Bertans had 11. Off the bench, Patty Mills had 14. He's been hot from 3 of late. And Marco Bellinelli had 11. The Pacers defeat the Cavaliers 105-90. Indiana improves to 37-19. Cleveland drops to 11-45. Yet again, their fans were obnoxious with ridiculous chants as Colin Sexton was at the free throw line. Their fans chanted "Tank for Zion" after their fans famously chanted, I believe it was Tuesday night, to Brandon Ingram, "LeBron's gonna trade you." So, very clever fan base down there. in Indianapolis, as they really have nothing else better to do because Victor Oladipo's hurt and they know that they're not going anywhere this year. Bojan Bogdanovic had 23, Darren Collison had 18, Miles Turner had 14 off the bench, Domantas Sabonis had 13, Corey Joseph had 10. Meanwhile, for Cleveland, Larry Nance Jr. and Colin Sexton each had 16, and Jordan Clarkson off the bench had 18. The Raptors defeat the Knicks 104-99, an unimpressive win for Toronto and Marc Gasol's debut. They're 41-16. Knicks dropped to 10-45. Kyle Lowry at 22. Toronto doesn't win this game without Danny Green and his 4 3-pointers, a couple of them in the fourth quarter. Serge Ibaka had 15. Kawhi Leonard had 11. He was awful in that game. Pascal Siakam had 10. Off the bench, Norman Powell had 14. And meanwhile, for New York, Kevin Knox had 20. Dennis Smith Jr. had 13. DeAndre Jordan had 10. Off the bench, Mitchell Robinson had 15. And Kadeem Allen had 14 off the bench for New York. The Hornets defeat the Hawks 129-120. Charlotte 27-28. Atlanta 18-37. Kemba Walker had 37. Jeremy Lamb had 24. Marvin Williams had 27. Cody Zeller had 10 off the bench. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist had 11. Meanwhile, for Atlanta, John Collins had 21. Trae Young had 20. Kevin Huerter had 17. Dwayne Dedmon had 14. Off the bench, Jeremy Lin and Kent Bazemore each had 13. The Clippers defeat the Celtics 123-112. Clippers 31-26. Boston 35-21. Montrezl Harrell had 21 in that great comeback by the Clippers. They're down 28, and that is probably the worst loss of Brad Stevens' Boston Celtics head coaching career. And Harrell had the 21 off the bench. Shamet had 17 off the bench. Lou Williams had 15 off the bench. Danilo Gallinari had 19. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 14. Vika Zubac and Patrick Beverley each had 12. Garrett Temple had 11. Meanwhile, for Boston, Kyrie Irving had 14. Marcus Morris had 15. Jason Tatum had 16. Off the bench, Gordon Hayward had 19. Terry Rozier had 16. Jaylen Brown had 12. Daniel Theis had 10. The Wizards defeat the Bulls 134-125. Wizards 24-32. Chicago 13-43. Bradley Beal had 31. Thomas Bryant had 13. Trevor Ariza had 19. Jabari Parker off the bench had 20. Bobby Portis off the bench had 10. Wesley Johnson off the bench had 14. Chasen Randall off the bench had 20. Meanwhile, for Chicago, Lauri Markkanen had 20. Zach LaVine had 26. Robin Lopez had 18. Otto Porter had 17. Off the bench, Wayne Selden had 17. The Grizzlies defeat the Pelicans 99-90. Memphis 23-34. New Orleans 25-32. Julius Randle led the Pelicans in scoring actually with 21 off the bench. Anthony Davis had 14. Drew Holiday had 15 with 10. In actually starting Kenrich Williams. I mean, for Memphis, Von Rabb had 10. Jaren Jackson Jr. had 14. Justin Holiday had 15. Mike Conley had 11. Off the bench, CJ Miles had 13. And Joakim Noah had 19. The Thunder defeat the Rockets 117-112 in what was a great game on ABC. The Thunder actually were down by 26 and overcame it to win in regulation. Great win for Billy Donovan's team. They're 36-19. Houston is 32-23. Paul George was the best player on the court on Saturday night. He had 45 points. Russell Westbrook had 21. Terrence Ferguson had 15. Off the bench, Dennis Schroeder had 17. Meanwhile, for Houston, James Harden had 42. Eric Gordon had 13. Chris Paul had 18. Kenneth Faried had 17. Austin Rivers off the bench had 10. The Magic defeat the Bucks 103-83. Orlando 24-32. Milwaukee 41-14. Bucks get a pass for this loss because Giannis didn't play. Jonathan Isaac had 17. Aaron Gordon had 14. Nikola Vucevic had 15. Meanwhile, for Milwaukee, Chris Middleton had 11. Malcolm Brogdon had 14. Eric Bledsoe had 19. Meanwhile, yesterday's slate, only 5 games. The Mavericks defeat the Trailblazers 102-101 as Dallas closed the game on a big run. They're down by 15 points. Came back to win. They're 26-29. Portland drops to 33-22. Luka Doncic was sensational. He had 28 points. Tim Hardaway Jr. had 24. Dorian Finney-Smith had 11. Dwight Powell off the bench had 13. Meanwhile, Damian Lillard had 30. Jusuf Nurkic had 18. CJ McCollum had 14. The 76ers defeat the Lakers 114-120 on national TV. I would have picked the Lakers to win this game because I would have tucked myself into the Celtics win was season changer, but that doesn't look like to be the case right now, as this game was actually close in the third quarter. The Philly just had a big fourth quarter and pulled away, led by their bench. As they go to 36-20, Lakers drop to 28-28. Joel Embiid at 37, Tobias Harris at 22, Jimmy Butler at 15, A.J. Redick had 21. Off the bench, T.J. McConnell at 13, Bojan Marjanovic had 10. Meanwhile, for the Lakers, Kyle Kuzma had 39, LeBron had 18, Brandon Ingram had 19, JaVale McGee had 21. Bench didn't do much. The Kings defeat the Suns 117-104. Sacramento 30-26, Phoenix 11-47. Marvin Bagley had 32 off the bench, and Bogdan Bogdanovic had 14 off the bench. Meanwhile, for the Stars, Nemanja Bjelica and Willie Cauley-Stein each had 10. Darren Fox at 17, Buddy Hield at 18. Phoenix, Devin Booker at 27, DeAndre Ayton had 18. Josh Jackson at 18. Rashawn Holmes off the bench had 10. That is, I believe, 14 straight losses now for the Suns. They are rivaling the Knicks to be the worst team in the NBA record-wise for Zion Williamson. And we'll get into a big tankathon game tonight in a few minutes on the podcast. The Magic defeat the Hawks 124-128. As Orlando goes to 25-32, the Hawks drop to 18-38. Nikola Vucevic had 19. DJ Augustine had 14. Evan Fournier had 17, as well as Jonathan Isaacs. Aaron Gordon had 12. And off the bench, Terrence Ross had 18. And Wesley Iwundu had 10. Meanwhile, for Atlanta, John Collins had 15, as well as Kevin Huerter. Trae Young had 13. Alex Len had 16. Jeremy Lin, who was just bought out by the Hawks, he's going to sign with Toronto, had 12 off the bench. And Amari Spellman had 10 off the bench. The Warriors defeat the Heat 120-118. This was an excellent game last night. Golden State 40-15. Miami 25-29. Kevin Durant had 39. And the refs missed a double dribble on Durant. I don't know if Miami would have won that game or not if they didn't call that, but Golden State took advantage of the no call there. Klay Thompson at 29, Stephen Curry at 25. Bench didn't do anything. DeMarcus Cousins actually had the 2 go-ahead free throws late in that game to give the Warriors the win. Justice Winslow had 22. Josh Richardson had 35. Deion Waiters had 24, including a miss that would have given Miami the win at the buzzer last night. And Hassan Whiteside at 13. What am I saying? And Dwayne Wade at 10. Tonight's slate at 7 o'clock, you have the Tankathon. The Knicks at the Cavaliers. These two teams are combined 21-90, fighting for the rights to get the most ping pong balls, even though the lottery odds are different. The top 3 teams in the lottery each have a 14% chance to win. But this is an all-tankathon game in Cleveland. Cleveland's favored by 1.5. I don't know who's going to win the game. If anything, if I have a suggestion, I'd bet the under, because neither of these teams will be interested in scoring points tonight. The Wizards at the Pistons, the Hornets at the Pacers, 7:30 the Nets at the Raptors, the Bucks at the Bulls. NBA TV has a good one, the Mavericks at the Rockets, so Doncic against Harden. And as well as 8 o'clock, you have the Clippers at the Timberwolves, the Trailblazers at the Thunder, and the Heat at the Nuggets. I'm going to go over the NHL results from the last 2 days. I'm not going to do the stars of the game and whatnot because I am short on time, so I'll just do the records. The Bruins defeat the Kings 5-4 in overtime. I'm going over Saturday first. Boston 30-17-8. LA 23-27-5. The Sabres defeat the Red Wings 3-1. The Sabres with a big win 27-20-7. Detroit 21-27-5. The Wild defeat the Devils 4-2. The Wild 27-23-5. Devils 20-26-8. The Islanders defeat the Avalanche 4-3 in overtime. The Islanders go to 32-16-6. Colorado drops to 22-22-10. The Flyers defeat the Ducks 6-2. Philly 25-23-7. Anaheim 21-26-9. The Senators defeat the Jets 5-2. Ottawa 21-29-5. Winnipeg 34-18-3. The Blues defeat the Predators 3-2. St. Louis 26-22-5. Nashville 33-20-4. The Coyotes defeat the Stars 3-2. Arizona 24-26-5. Dallas 28-22-5. The Maple Leafs defeat the Canadiens 4-3 in overtime. What was a great game. Toronto 34-17-3. Montreal 31-18-7. The Lightning defeat the Penguins 5-4. Revenge win for Tampa Bay. They're 40-11-4. Pittsburgh 28-20-7. The Panthers defeat the Capitals 5-4 in overtime. Big win for Florida. They're 23-22-8. Washington 30-18-7. The Sharks defeat the Oilers 5-2. The Sharks 33-16-7. Edmonton 24-26-5. The Canucks defeat the Flames 4-3 in a shootout. Vancouver 25-24-7. Calgary 34-15-6. The Blue Jackets defeat the Golden Knights 4-3. Huge win for Columbus. They're 31-20-3. Vegas 31-22-4. Yesterday's games. The Blues defeat the Predators 5-4 in overtime. That was the NBC game. I would have taken Nashville to win because both teams were on the second of a home and Nashville was home, but good job by the Blues for getting the win. They're 27-22-5. Nashville is 33-20-5. The Bruins defeat the Avalanche 2-1 in overtime. Bruins go to 31-17-8. Colorado drops to 22-22-11. That's 7 straight losses now for the Avalanche. The Jets defeat the Sabres 3-1. Good bounce back win for Winnipeg. They're 35-18-3. Buffalo 27-21-7. The Devils defeat the Hurricanes 3-2. Good bounce back win for New Jersey. They're 21-26-8. Carolina 28-22-6. The Islanders defeat the Wild 2-1. The Islanders 33-16-6. Minnesota 27-24-5. The Blackhawks defeat the Red Wings 5-2. Chicago 23-24-9. Detroit 21-28-7. The Lightning defeat the Panthers 5-2. Tampa Bay 41-11-4. Florida 23-23-8. And the Rangers defeat the Maple Leafs 4-1. New York improves to 24-23-8. Toronto 34-18-3. And that was a nationally televised game as well. I would have taken the Rangers and made a case for a letdown for the Maple Leafs after their big win over Toronto, and that's indeed what happened. And plus, both teams were playing their backup goalies, and the Rangers' backup goalie had 55 saves last night. Tonight's slate in the NHL, 7 o'clock on MHCSN, is a pretty big one. The Penguins at the Flyers. Flyers have been hot. Pittsburgh has been not. Pittsburgh has lost 4 straight. Philadelphia is on a nice run right now. Their lone loss came in overtime against the Kings. They've been on a nice point streak, and I think that continues tonight in their home building against their arch rival, led by the sensational Carter Hart. And then the Kings at the Capitals, and then tonight at 10 o'clock you have the Sharks at the Canucks. I was going to talk about the AAF, but there's 2 big breaking news stories I want to get into. Kyler Murray is off football now. He came out with a statement and saying that his main focus is football and that he's chosen football over baseball because that's what his preference is, and that is obviously the right move for him. He will return $1.29 million to the Oakland Athletics, and he gives up $3.16 million, which is due March 1st, and the Oakland Athletics do not get a compensatory draft pick. So the biggest loser in this is the Oakland Athletics, obviously, and to me the big winner is the NFL, and if you want to do a plural style, winners are quarterback needy teams like the Giants and the Jaguars, the Broncos, the Dolphins, the Redskins, you name them. Any team that needs a future quarterback, even New England for that matter, if they want to start planning for post-Tom Brady life. So those teams are big winners, obviously. And the only loser in this is the Oakland Athletics. And more breaking NFL news, the Cleveland Browns with a surprise signing of Kareem Hunt. I was not expecting that at all. I'm sure social media is making fun of him because it's the Browns and oh, what a joke. But hey, Kareem Hunt's a good player. And John Dorsey, this makes sense because Dorsey used to be the GM of the Chiefs, and he brings in his former player in Hunt, and he says that we believe he deserves a second chance. I've always felt that everybody deserved a second chance, so I think Hunt will benefit. I think the Browns have to improve their offensive line a little bit, though. I do think that they're going to be a popular pick to win the AFC North, assuming that Pittsburgh trades Antonio Brown, and people expect regression from Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And who knows, maybe Cincinnati moves on from Andy Dalton. They begin a rebuild. So maybe the Browns come in the next year as the favorites in the AFC North. And that sounds ludicrously crazy, but Kareem Hunt to the Browns is a big story, and I'm interested to see if he looks anything like the guy he was in his rookie season, in which he was sensational. Now I'm going to do my best bet, brought to you by FanDuel. I obviously did not win on Saturday because Sacred Heart was the only team that lost. I put in the parlay that was a double-digit favorite. And they lost, I believe, to Mount St. Mary's. Meanwhile, everybody else won, or else I would have won my money. There's some nice options to choose from tonight. There's some big favorites in the NBA and in college. Let's go with the Toronto Raptors over the Brooklyn Nets, although I'm not super about it. And I'm not so super about the Rockets against the Mavs either. I'm going to take them because of how well James Harden's been playing. I don't trust the Mavs away from home, and plus on the second one back-to-back, I could see a letdown from Dallas. And I think Houston's poised to bounce back from that loss against Oklahoma City. I'm taking the Bucks in Chicago because the Bulls are just tanking. I'm taking the Nuggets against Miami. I'm not touching the tank bowl between New York and Cleveland. I'm going to take NC Central and NCA&T as double-digit favorites, but except on the money line, obviously. Going to take a chance with Alabama State as well. And in the NHL, do I like any of these? Should I go with the Capitals? No. I really don't trust how that team has been playing of late, so I'm not going to take my chance on the Washington Capitals. The instead, I'm going to throw it on overnight tennis with Daniil Medvedev and Stefanos Tsitsipas, Joe-Wilfried Tsonga, Milos Raonic, Denis Shapovalov, and Shapovalov's playing Franco Skurger, Raonic over Philip Kohlschreiber, Tsonga over Thomas Fabiano, and Stefanos Tsitsipas over Damir Zoomer, Daniil Medvedev over Jeremy Chardy, and that's all overnight in the ATF 500 series. That's 12. I'm wagering $1 to win $5.67 with a payout of $6.67. that's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything from college basketball, NBA, and NHL, looking at the tomorrow's slate. I'm going to do power rankings. I think I'm going to do both the NBA and NHL power rankings. And tomorrow I'm going to start my baseball preseason rankings. I'm going to do from position by position. And eventually going to get to my players' rankings. And then I'm going to do some other fun stuff involving baseball as well. And obviously, I want to eventually get into the AAF and recap those games from the weekend and talk about them a little bit as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.